Well, may sound a little weird to hear, but I want to welcome you as our graduating class of 2027 and to tonight's virtual presentation. And our primary focus is to talk a bit about our school and what we can offer as a school to support your child and the experience they'll have, as well as to go over course selection and course offerings at the grade 8 level and try and answer any questions around the school. Again, just a reminder, if you can keep microphones muted and your cameras off as we are recording this presentation, and just a bit of an overview of what we'll be covering today and answering any questions as we move along. Again, if you do have a question, please use that chat feature in the bottom, and Mr. Lally, Mr. Annandale, and Ms. Calendar will do their best to help you all. The three of us as administrators, we're here at Delta Secondary doing today's presentation. And I'm assuming most of you are at home, but I just want to start by doing a land acknowledgement. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Tsawwassen and Musqueam First Nations and all of the Hunkaminam speaking people who've been stewards of this land in time immemorial. I also want to offer my respects to all the elders who've gone before us and to the elders and First Nations people that are with us today. And as I tell the students, it's always a true honor and privilege to work, live, learn, and play on these beautiful lands, and very privileged and blessed to be in this part of the world, especially with the recent news of what's been happening over in Europe. And our thoughts are with all those who might be concerned or worried or suffering at this time. I want to introduce you to my wonderful administrative team and how it works at Delta Secondary is we go by grade level and we alternate years. So next year, Mr. Annandale will be passing his grade 11s on to me, his grade 12s, and he'll take his grade 9s, his grade 10s, and welcome your children as grade 8s. And Ms. Calendar is our current grade 8 administrator, and she will follow her children up to the next grade level. And in the perfect world, your children will have a vice principal follow them from grade 8 to grade 11. And then in grade 12, their school principal will be working with them around graduation and scholarships and pieces like that. Very lucky to have a talented counseling team at Delta Secondary. Mr. Lally, who you'll see speak in a little bit. And for our counselors, we do it by alpha split. And both Mr. Lally and Ms. Keller are half-time. And the reason why I show their initials for family names on the screen is that if you have any questions, we will send to the school's emails of the counselors if there are some questions around timetabling and scheduling, and these will be their primary contacts as we transition. And then Ms. Green does the letters F to L. Ms. Rower is our current counseling department head, and she also supports our international student population. And Ms. Gillis rounds up the end of the alphabet. And she's also our Indigenous support advocate. So any students that have Indigenous ancestry can turn to Ms. Gillis also as a contact or a point to support her. I'm assuming when I used to do this presentation in person, I was always fascinated by the number of hands that would come up when I asked, how many of you went to Delta Secondary or had a parent, a sibling, or a cousin? And we are a very unique school. We are a community school. We're the only school in the Ladner community. We're also a multi-generational school. And the three of us get a good chuckle when our younger students are roaming the hallways trying to find a picture of mom or dad or grandma and grandpa on the walls. And the first thing they usually notice are the unique hairstyles that we probably had back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I remind them that in about 30, 40 years, they'll be looking at the hairstyles of millennials and having a good chuckle as well. We are a very large school. We're just under 1,200 students in population, and we have over 75 teachers. And I have a total staff of 125 with us. And as you can see from the screen, we have a lot of supports that a lot of the elementary schools don't have, and that's partly because of our size. We have an amazing school liaison officer. His name is Constable Rob Semler. He is also an alumni of this school, like many of our staff. And he coaches sports teams. He helps run after-school programs, and he's a true ally and someone to help our students sort of navigate life, navigate school, navigate adolescence. And as Ms. Dean had said, that's the one thing about our school. I've been in a number of schools, and this is one school where I think it's because of the invested interest of being local Ladnerites and their own alma mater, but our staff generally care about their kids and want to do everything they can to help them succeed. Being one of the bigger high schools in the district, we also provide a lot of opportunities. And my goal is that your son or daughter, as they come through our doors next September, they'll have a purpose, they'll find a passion, and they'll explore all the opportunities, whether it's through athletics or the fine arts, whether it's as an international student visiting us for a short term or looking at an international opportunity, whether it's through our technical studies program and our apprenticeship programs. There are a lot of opportunities for students to get involved, to develop their leadership skills, and to find opportunities in what life will bring them outside and after high school. You'll also hear a lot at the school level about being a good pacer, and that we are all pacers. And this is our school code of conduct. And we ask our students, we challenge our students to participate to the best of their ability, to achieve the best that they can in the classroom, on a playing surface, on a performance stage, to show care for themselves, care for others, and care for our community, to explore. Try a course maybe that you aren't familiar with or kind of curious about. Feel free to explore the world outside this little community of Ladner. And the big one for us, that foundational one, is the respect. Showing respect for one another and living by that golden rule, and helping to create a real positive, inclusive school learning community. Just a couple of photos of, these are pre-COVID, that's why you won't see any masks in them, but just the breadth and the range of opportunities for students. We have a number of clubs, I believe over 25 clubs at the school, ranging from a chess club to an AV club to a global perspectives club. We have real passionate teachers in the elective areas, whether it's in fine arts or culinary arts program or band. And we have a strong tradition in athletics. And the big one message I have for your child is about becoming involved. Your children have been the big fish in that small pond, and they've been the leaders of their elementary school, whether it's been a big buddy with the younger grade or helping out in the office or part of a student council or government. And we really encourage them to get involved, whether it's through a club or athletics. It's a great way to make new friends, to build your connections in your network, but become part of something. And, we really pride ourselves on making this place feel like a second home. And we want students to feel comfortable here, want to spend their time here, and make some lifelong lasting memories. I won't read all the clubs, but we do have a number of clubs that are available at Delta Secondary, and these are the clubs that were run this year. Ms. Calendar runs our DAC, which is a Delta Youth Advisory Council. And that club is a club comprised of students from the 7 high schools in Delta, and they've been working together with school trustees and senior leadership on carrying a variety of initiatives. And I know at our school, the initiative this year was on connection. So our DAC club is working with finding ways to connect and make connections with those students that are new to our school, whether they're from our international program and abroad, whether they've transferred from a neighboring school or district, or just new as a grade 8 to our school. And there's the alliances on the bottom. The Dungeons and Dragons Club was established this year, and that's because we had a couple of grade 8 students that were really interested, and they found a staff member that was also interested in that aspect. So they decided to form a club together. And we always say that if there's a club that we don't offer, but there's an interest, we will do everything we can to make those clubs run.
Sorry to interrupt, John. There's a couple of people mentioning that it's hard to hear. I'm not sure if you can speak a little closer to the microphone, that may help.
Absolutely, thank you. In our pre-pandemic, and I said this last year and I'll say it again, hopefully we return to this next year, but opening day. So when school starts up on September 6th next year, all the grade 8s come in for an orientation, and we, as tradition here at Delta Secondary, we try and take a large composite photo. And this photo here is of this year's graduating class, whose parents sat in our theater 5 years ago to learn about our school. And it's really the start of a journey for everyone. And here at Delta Secondary, we really pride ourselves on that journey and that process. And it's that means towards an end. And kind of like this picture depicts, high school is one thrill ride or one adventure filled with many highs, some lows, moments of struggle, moments of victory, but hopefully some smiles and some lifelong friendships along the way. And it's really about trying to find out who they are over these next 5 years, who their close friends are, and what opportunities they really want to pursue. And you're an important role in that. And just because your child is coming to high school doesn't necessarily mean you have to let them off at the doorstep or not enter the threshold with them. We want you to be part of our team in trying to help raise your child and help them with their academic success. And where we hope it ends in these 5 long years is with a graduation dinner dance and the celebration of all their hard work and a celebration of all the opportunities that they have coming ahead of them. And it'll go by quick. I know for myself, like you, my daughter is entering grade 8 next September, and it feels just like yesterday I was giving her a big hug and she was holding a sign saying off to kindergarten, that it was only like yesterday. And again, encouraging parents to enjoy this time with your child. Come cheer them on at their sports performances, at their fine arts performances, at their music concerts, and be involved in their schooling and become part of our school community. At this point, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to rest my throat and turn off my screen, and I'm going to turn over to Mr. Lally, who will be walking you through course selection, course offerings, and any questions regarding course selection process. Mr. Lally, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So I want to welcome all the parents for joining us today. And I'm going to be going over grade 8 course schedules and required courses. So just to relieve parents' anxieties, most kids, probably 99% of students, will have the same schedule. In grade 8, students are required to have English, socials, math, science, PE, French, and two electives. So the 2 electives, there'll be one elective where the students are rotating through food studies, textiles, woodwork, metalwork, tech ed. And then there's a second elective. I think it's on the next screen, next page. And the second elective is a fine arts exploration, where the students will rotate through art, drama, and guitar. So what that looks like is, currently we're in a semester system. Assuming we're in a semester system next year, which we're not quite sure yet, could be linear or semester. But if we are in a semester system next year, students will be taking 4 courses from September to February. There'll be the same 4 courses every day. And then in February, they'll start 4 new courses. That would be their second semester. So for example, a student's timetable in the first semester might look like English, social, science, and an elective. That's just an example. And then they would take the other 4 courses in the second semester. So they would have English every day from September to February. And then the electives, so if they're in the fine arts rotation, they'll have art, drama, and guitar. And art will be for several weeks, and then they'll have drama for several weeks, and then guitar for several weeks. So that's how the elective rotations work. They get an opportunity to try almost every elective, and then in grade 9, they can choose an elective that they would take for the whole semester. So in grade 8, it's an opportunity for them to do some sampling. Now, if your child is interested in joining band, they would not take a fine art explorations block. They would take band instead. And when you go on to MyEd to register for your child's courses, there'll be the option for you to pick band instead of fine arts. You would unclick fine arts and choose band. There also is option for an additional course. It's called Choir 8. So it says here X block course. What that means is choir happens after school. And the choir teacher would provide the students with, the schedule. It could be every other day, it could be several times a week. It's after school. The child would get credit for the course. So it would be happening after school. Go to the next page, please. And there'll be some students, who will be requiring extra support in their learning. So depending on the student's need, a support block is scheduled. So now what happens typically is either one of the student's electives is replaced with a block of support, what we call it strategies, or French 8. Sometimes some students won't take French 8 and they'll have a block of learning support. So what that looks like is your child would attend this block of support. It would be just like any other course. They would be there for about 80 minutes. In semester, it'd be every day for in the first semester. If it was a linear system, it would be every other day for the whole year. And this is something that we will be meeting with the grade 7 teachers from our catchment schools in the near future and discussing which students may need the support. Many of the students already have support at the elementary school, and the teachers will be sharing that with us, and they will make some recommendations and suggest, this child should continue to have learning support or not. And then we'll make that decision. Now, if you have any concerns, my suggestion would be, you talk to your grade 7 teacher, let them know, we want our child to continue to have support. It's very helpful, but we will be meeting with them. So you do not need to choose this course. It's not an option for you when you do course selection. If your child is going to be getting a block of support, we will deal with that on the back end. All you need to do is, pick the 8 courses, and then we will take out one of the electives or language and have the student placed in a block of strategies. Now, I do want to mention one thing. This is not a tutoring block. It's not for, students who, want to get ahead, or this is a block where students are struggling with their learning. They may have a learning disability. They, they might have, quite a few struggles. So I do get this question a lot. I would have parents call me, say, look, my kid's struggling in math or science. Can we give them a block of support? And we'll look at it, we'll review it, but usually my recommendation is, maybe the child needs extra help, maybe a tutor, and that usually resolves the situation. And if you come to a situation where your child is struggling in a number of courses, I would always encourage you to make contact with the teachers. And I always encourage the students to talk to the teachers. And that's one big difference you'll notice coming into grade 8. You're going to have up to 8 different teachers versus one teacher. And my first sort of comments to when parents contact me is to advise them, talk directly with the teacher, see what their feedback is, get some, or maybe inform them of some of your child's struggles, because they're going to be seeing your child on a daily basis. So what I would strongly encourage you keep in regular communications with the teacher. Best thing to do is probably email them and get them to call you back. And then moving on to district support programs. So there are some programs like GradQuest, supportive learning, modified skills, life skills. Now, these are programs that your grade 7 teacher will discuss with you and as a parent and let you know if this is appropriate. So this is for students who have other learning disabilities. and may need a more specialized program to support them. So the grade 7 teacher would have consult with the parent and the teacher, and they would make an application to the district, and the district would then inform the family if the program is suitable or not. We'll move on to the next slide, please. So the Delta School District also offers academy programs. So academy programs take up 2 blocks of the child's schedule. And this is where students cross enroll school that is the host for the academy program. So academy programs consist of 2 courses. Students receive a credit for fine arts or PE and a second elective. So depending on the academy they're taking, say for example, it's dance, they're taking dance, they would then have 2 blocks of dance, and they would be missing the fine arts at her school. And also if they're taking something like lacrosse, they would not have PE. So these are paid programs, and there's a link at the bottom of the presentation where you can contact Delta Academies and get more information about what the costs are. If your child is interested in these programs, you are required to provide transportation. I know here it says DMAC, that's next to the McDonald's and Ladner's. So the child is required to get to there on their own, or parents drop them off and pick them up during the day. So there isn't transportation provided. So if a child is interested in taking an academy program, they can contact Delta Academies. The next page, please.
Awesome. Thanks.
I just want to mention a few things before we move on. Now, as Mr. Paveo has mentioned at the beginning, counselors are assigned alpha. So for example, my alpha, I work with students with last names A to B. So if you have concerns or questions, or your child is struggling with, it could be a number of things. It could be issues at home. It could be issues with peers. It could be some mental health issues. I would encourage you to email your counselor and set up a time to talk to them and see how they can provide help and support your child. And that's our role at the school. So even after this presentation, if you have questions specifically to your child, I would encourage you to email your counselor about those. The other thing I wanted to mention is, sometimes I get requests from parents saying, look, I'd like to have my child with this friend or that friend in their classes. And that's very difficult for us to do. And we don't usually accommodate those requests. It's, the kids are sort of rotated through the system, assigned classes and teachers. And I always tell kids, it's an opportunity for you to meet new people, make new friends, and sort of get outside your comfort zone. And kids usually get on board. And the final thing I'll mention is schedules. I'll start to get emails from parents asking, when do we get schedules? So last year, I think it was a week before school started, a couple of days before school started, the grade 8s were invited to the school to pick up their course schedules. They had some time to, mingle. So everybody will get their schedule, but you'll have to wait till September. And you'll get an email from Mr. Paveo about that. We won't have them any earlier. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Mr. Lally. Appreciate that. And ties in nicely to this slide. Typically, we work up until the end of June, and then back in August when new students arrive to our school, as we try our best to balance class size and class composition. So schedules are always changing. Some students taking advanced credit through summer school, Others had to complete a summer school course to continue on with the appropriate grade levels. There's always some adjustments. As we started from the beginning, high school parents in grades 8 to grade 12 have been surveyed on their past 2 years of learning through a pandemic. And I know it hasn't changed much at elementary because you always have one or two teachers working with your child, but at the high schools, they've experienced a couple different systems. And the two that we are looking at to consider for next year is either semester or linear system that Mr. Lally suggested. And we're hoping to have a decision made sometime in April before we have to begin our staffing process. Typically, when the pandemic rules allow, we try and invite all of you to come join us for a barbecue with your child in the late spring to kind of get to tour the school and get a bit of a meet. We also invite the grade 8 students that last week, usually it's the last Thursday, right before the Labor Day weekend, where they can come pick up their schedules, kind of tour the school and try and get some bearings set. And then on the first day of school in September, we have our opening day. And it's usually when those schedules go back home to the parents is when we can try and look to accommodate any changes that might be. For example, if we were a semester system, maybe the way the computer system produced the timetable, we see that your child has 3 heavy academics or 3 difficult academics in one semester. If we were linear, maybe it's 3 academics on one day and only 1 on the other with all the electives. We try and balance those out as best we can. High school is a little unique. For the past few years, we've had something called collaboration days. The kids call it late start Wednesdays because their school starts at 9:30 in the morning. But every second Wednesday, teachers meet from 8:30 to 9:30 to work on instructional initiatives and practices to best support children in the classroom and to help enhance and supplement their learning. Prior to the pandemic, we ran something called flexible learning time, which was a designated 40-minute block of time where students were required to either go to a class that they were prescribed to, or they had a choice to visit one of their classes by signing up to get some additional support. It might be to rewrite a test. It might be some extra support and practice in a concept they were learning. If they were all caught up on their studies, it allowed them an opportunity to pursue their passion in either an elective area. So we will be keeping you informed of what next year will look like, as we are in the process right now of gathering information and data to help us make an informed decision. I know we live in a digital age, in a digital world, and there are a lot of ways for not only parents, but for students to connect with us. We've morphed to try and keep up with our students. So we tend to use Instagram and Twitter a bit more than Facebook, but Facebook is still linked up to take any tweets or posts we have through our Delta website, and then the Delta Secondary School website. If you just did a Google search for Delta Secondary, I believe Mr. Annandale will post our school website into the chat if you want to click on a link. It has all the information regarding our school, and there's a special section under programs and courses as well that'll have more information regarding this presentation, but this is where this video will be posted. The My School Day app is a digital planner. So we provide all of our grade 8s and 9 students with a physical planner, just like they have in elementary school, where they can record their homework and upcoming tests and can have communication between parent and teacher. But we have the similar thing through a digital application. And come September, there'll be information for both parents and students to download our My School Day app, as it provides them with a bell schedule, a monthly calendar of events at a glance, and allows students to sort of keep track of their studies. Social media and cell phones. And as we've heard, our students are digital citizens, in this digital world. And there'll be a large range of expectations and provisions regarding cell phones at our school. As I have in the green text here, cell phones can be the most powerful educational tool when it's used effectively. We've also seen it where it can be devastating and it can cause a lot of stress, anxiety, and drama and be quite the distraction. And, some teachers utilize the cell phones with their Google Classrooms and their Kahoot polls and interactive websites and activities for the students. We also have staff members that its cell phones are out of sight, out of mind. And if we see the cell phones, we're going to take the cell phones. And if a cell phone becomes a hindrance or a problem for a child and affects their learning, Mr. Annandale, Ms. Counter, and I have no problem taking that phone and locking it up for the day as well. And I share this with you because when we look at all the time we spend trying to help students resolve conflict or navigate some challenges, 99% of them are started by a cell phone. And 99% of the time, those problems occur from things that are posted or said or shared on social media, usually at night, usually on the weekends. And unfortunately, it carries into our school. And pre-pandemic, we do presentations around education and awareness. But I want to remind you parents that you pay those cell phone bills, and those are technically your phones. And kind of like not dropping your children off at the front door and just saying, all right, you're high school now, you're on your own. We are asking you to be present, to be active, and to be a part of your children's digital footprint. You know, we use the term brand here at Delta Secondary. You know, what brand are you creating for yourself? And with Ladner being a very small town, it's easy to get labeled. It's easy to be identified based on how you interact on social media. And we have a number of students that do so well academically or in an elective area. We're proud every June to recognize a few students with large scholarships and bursaries or the opportunity to pursue their education in terms of a full scholarship down in the States or in other parts of Canada. And a big part of their success, in addition to school, is their brand and being involved in the community through volunteer hours and service. But, you know, being that kind, respectful, caring person with their digital footprint as well. Mr. Annandale has been visiting our grade 7s this week, and he'll continue on next week as he's been dropping off course selection packages and talking about high school. But this is just a slide we share with our kids, and I want to share with you. You know, it's always that before you post, we ask you to think. And is it truthful, helpful, inspiring, nice, and kind? Or the one we brought from the White Hatter, you know, that grandma or mom test. Before you post something, think about what a family member would say if they saw it or came across that. And it's easy to put something into a screen behind an anonymous handle, but would you still say those things if you were face to face with somebody? And is it something you'd publish or be proud of in terms of your work? So hoping again you'll help us with that cell phone and with helping pass on that positive message. One more slide before I turn it over for questions from the chat and all of you is just some important registration information. We're asking our incoming grade 8s, our class of 2027, to go through the process of logging on to their MyEd, and we do have instructional sheets that will be delivered to your child if you haven't had them yet by next Friday, March the 4th. And Mr. Andy will have probably posted in the link already. He's very efficient, but our course selection booklet with the write-up and course offerings are available on our school website. And I got to change I've been updated, but hopefully by Monday, this recorded presentation will be uploaded and on our website so people can review and move through the pieces.
And I'll just step in there, John, for a sec. If on course selection on MyEd, I've gone through and the classes that I've visited, so students from Hawthorne Elementary and Ladner Elementary, I dropped off the course selection sheets that have a login information and the temporary password for your child to get onto MyEd to be able to do their course selection. The other schools, I'm visiting some tomorrow and early next week to hand out those sheets. So your children should be coming home with or have worked through with their teacher already by that time to do the login information. For those that may have gotten it today, I saw someone already tried to get on and couldn't see it. I just, after seeing that, it was going to be opened up after this presentation. So you would be able to follow the instructions and actually log in and start doing your selection. I see one question in the chat about an out of catchment application, and that again, that their application may not be reviewed or confirmed until after March 4th, which is our tentative sort of, we're hoping to get all our selections in by then. That's not to worry. And it's also really not to worry if you can't get into MyEd to get your course selection. We do ensure that all grade 8 students get a full set of courses. This is more helping, as I was telling your children this morning, that I visited and the ones that I'll be visiting tomorrow and next week, is that we're looking to get them a little bit more comfortable with the system that they're going to use for seeing their schedules next year, getting on just sort of a bit more of the high school experience prior to coming. But we will make sure that they do have a full set of courses regardless. We do talk with all the grade 7 teachers and touch base to get sort of what their indications are. And if they fill out a paper form and hand it in to us, we will make sure that that also gets selected as well. There isn't a lot of choice and selection, as you heard in the grade 8. We're trying to give grade 8s a full selection and preview of all the different offerings that we have, so they sort of get a set menu next year, with the exception of sort of choosing band over your fine art rotation. And any strategies blocks would be in discussion with the families and the counselors anyways. So there's not a big concern if you can't get in to do it, but we're just trying to give a bit of preview for that.
Thanks, Mike. I'm just looking at some of the questions here. One was regarding the equity piece for technology, and we're very fortunate at Delta Secondary to have a number of technologies available to students within the classrooms, primarily Chromebooks, iPads, and a few classes even have Apple laptops. So if we are doing anything where a child doesn't have a phone, we do have that technology piece. I did see a question regarding enriched math, and there is no ministry course. So when the curriculum was revised through the Ministry of Education, it was streamlined to focus more on big ideas, curricular competencies for students to achieve and demonstrate. And at our school, we weren't offering an accelerated math program like maybe some of the other secondary schools do, where students accelerate through maybe 2 math class levels in 1 year, so that they have the opportunity to take a calculus in grade 12. And the philosophy we have at Delta Secondary is, we're taking in students from, well, in Ladner, 5 different public schools, 2 private schools, plus anyone else who applies from out of catchment or out of district. And, the math experience, I think back to my children, and I think back to my own experience. The math experience you might have from one teacher might be a little different from someone else. And when we talk about equity and accessibility, was it really fair to run something like an enriched class or a core class? So at the grade 8 level, it's the math curriculum, and we're working with our teachers to continue to have low floors and high ceilings to challenge and support students at where they're at. And then by the grade 10 level, when we get towards the graduation program, students then have that opportunity to take a course that's more at an appropriate level for them. Whether it's a pre-calculus because they're looking at going into a science or math post-secondary training, whether it's a foundations math that is suitable for many post-secondary institutions, or it's a workplace and apprenticeship math that is recognized at a lot of the college levels and more geared towards apprenticeship and trades programs. French 8 as well as another course we offer. It's an introductory language course, and I'm aware that some students may not have had French exposure at their elementary school, but again, as Mr. Lally had suggested, the grade 8 is really, it's like kindergarten for high school in that it's an introductory level. It's a continuation of the levels learned at grade 7, and it's a foundational piece for our high school, with our goal of trying to get students as close as we can to the appropriate level by grade 10, where course credits and more strict graduation requirements are required towards a high school diploma. Any other questions, Mr. Calendar, or?
I'm just going to sort of piggyback and jump on a few things there. Being a parent myself and having my daughter enter grade 8 this year at Delta Secondary and working with grade 8 kids this year. There's a few things I'll sort of mention to you that hopefully will reduce some of your anxieties. It is a bit of a change for kids coming from grade 7 to grade 8. And I'll the first few days, it's sometimes overwhelming. And, getting from one class to the other, should I go to my locker or should I go straight to my class? And your child might be tired more than they normally are the first few days. And what I would advise you to say is, this is part of the process. Right? It's something new, but things will settle. The first few days, are might be a bit more challenging. And I've had students in my office sometimes feeling overwhelmed or crying, or I've had parents call me, but over time, I just tell them, it's just the first few days, things will get better and things will settle in, and that's what happens. And the other piece is in terms of choosing your courses. Like Mr. Annandale said, we'd like for you to have them done by March 4th. If you're unable to log on to MyEd, nothing to worry about. Your child will have a full schedule, but it's more about sort of, getting in the habit of being more independent, being able to pick your courses. And in grade 9 and 10, they'll have more options and electives to choose from. But it's not a first come first system. So some parents will say, I need to go on, I need to register the first day it opens up. I want to make sure my child gets their courses. That's not how it works. Your child chooses the courses when the deadline is finished, and then we have the computer sort of rotate in the options, and we have a schedule. And then the final thing that I'd mention to you is just adding on to the issue about cell phones. Some things I noticed as a child was into grade 8 is, what do we need to do in order for our child to be successful, building good habits? And one of the things that I would encourage you is this sleeping? I'm finding kids that are coming into my office struggling with anxiety, or they're feeling overwhelmed or tired. I find that they're staying up late. Sometimes they're on their phone in their bedrooms. They're coming to school pretty tired and exhausted. And that makes things challenging. So that's one thing I would encourage you guys to sort of monitor: the kids getting enough sleep and rest, and they're coming to school well rested. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. As Mr. Lally was talking, I was trying to answer a couple more questions. I'm sorry if you've posted one that we haven't answered. If you have one still, I would ask just try and throw it back into the chat, and we'll try and have another answer at it if we've missed it. I know there's some questions about the appropriate level, and again at grade 8, whether it's for band. Part of our purpose in band is, if they have experience, we try and move them to the intermediate band. If they are new to band or have only done it for a limited time, they may be in the beginner portion. Again, and part of it is timetabling, trying to schedule. A band, can range from anywhere from 20 to 48 students in size, and I think we try and in those first couple of years keep them by age-based appropriateness. So grade 8s and 9s maybe coming together, and then it's when they're in grade 10, depending on their skill level, whether it's an advanced band, an intermediate band, or they're picking it for beginner band as well. In my
I'll just jump in there, John, too. If a couple on, can students bring their own personal laptops? They certainly can. It's again, that's entirely up to the family and the child's preference. It's not expected or required, but if they're more comfortable using their own device to get onto Google Classroom or to access any online material for the course, yes, that's certainly amenable, and we will have the ability to give all students access to the Wi-Fi on whatever devices that they're bringing or using. I also saw, is there a homeroom asked? And that There is always a room that we use or a class that we use in order to get information out to students, but it may not be exactly in a homeroom. Some of that may depend on the system that we're in, whether it's a semestered system where we need to have a way to get students together throughout the entire year, or if it's a linear system, it may just be that we're going to use the students' Block A class that they'll always be in. So that will be the essentially the home base that we would have to get in there. So that's as far as a homeroom, yes, there will be a block that they'll be expected to go to get general information, but that may just be one of their classes and the teacher there, or we may have, depending on the system that's set up.
Sandy,
those are two that I saw that were easier to answer verbally.
Sandy, good question on the school time. And I think the pandemic has really challenged educators and school districts to look at what school looks like and what it may look like. I would assume it would be typical to what we currently have. We currently run from 8:30 to 2:50. There's a few factors that affect the length of day. Part of that is trying to meet ministry requirements for instructional minutes. Other part of it is working within the collective agreement to what is required for teachers regarding instructional minutes or length of day. But safe to say no school will ever exceed 8:30 to 3 o'clock. And this year we were 8:30 to 2:50. And that was with a 45-minute lunch in between. So we'll get those to you. I'm assuming that we'll do collaboration time again next year. And every Wednesday would be a 9:30 start for students and an 8:30 start for our staff. At the grade 8 and grade 9 level, and Mike, maybe if you could pull it up, I might ask, we'll just put in the BC curriculum screen for you. So grade 8 and grade 9, because some parts of our province run a middle school model, where there's 6, 7, grade 6, 7, 8, 9, or 6, 7, 8. We're considered, grade 8 and 9 are considered under the K-9 educational system. So they have sort of one set of expectations for report cards and grading and course content from kindergarten to grade 9. And then grade 10, 11, 12 is for the secondary program. And you'll find at grade 8 and grade 9, they'll keep the course offerings and titles very broad. So for example, I clicked on arts education. I was at grade 8. They won't say 2-dimensional art, drawing and painting, or 3-dimensional ceramics like they do at the senior level. They will just keep it big and just call it Fine Arts 8. And within the Fine Arts 8, they have a number of topics, or Art Education 8. It allows schools, based on their staffing and their staffing expertise, to be able to customize and meet those ministry requirements. And as Mr. Lally had said, there's no, it's not a first come, first serve with course selection. As students work up in grades, there are more and more niche or specialized offerings. And that's where course selection numbers or enrollment counts are important to see whether or not as a school we can offer a course. An example being, we offer Criminology 12 at the grade 12 level, which is a very popular course, but if for some reason only 5 students selected that course, that would be a course that we would cancel and not offer. And that's why we always ask students to sort of have elective or alternate course offerings for us. Yeah, Sarah, I'm looking at the next PAC meeting. I will make sure that when we do to send out one in April, I'll ask Heather Bowling, our office admin assistant, to push it out. She has all your contacts so that grade 7 parents can be invited and can join us on Zoom as well. We don't have a strategies X block offered, Sandy. We haven't had a reason or need to do that. The pandemic's forced high schools, I think, to transition a bit from what used to be called an enrolling. So your child would give up an elective to receive a block of support. We have some students where they don't necessarily need to give up an 80-minute chunk of time every second day for support and to help them with their learning or with their executive functioning. And so like an elementary school model, we have it where sometimes the support comes visit the student in the classroom. Sometimes the support is delivered through just having access to an education assistant. But our teachers have been fantastic the past few years, being available before school, at lunch, and after school. And it sounds like there's a desire by staff to bring back flexible learning time. And that's that 40-minute block of time where your child could go to their subject teacher to receive support where they felt they could benefit from some additional structured time to help them out. We do offer other language courses, and it starts at the grade 9 level. We offer Spanish and in grade 9, and then at grade 11 we have an introductory German. There's also through Delta Access in grade 10 other language-based courses online, though unfortunately that can be offered and taught. And the languages will be one that it's I think based on demand and need in the school community and the expertise that we have at the school level. Flex time. When we ran it before the pandemic, flex time happened between period 1 and period 2 on our 4-day period. Some schools have run it in the afternoon between period 3 and period 4. It was only last year during the quarter system when we had to run 2 long classes a day that we decided to put it at the end of the day. But we prefer to have it between the first 2 morning classes or the last 2 afternoon classes. I think that's it. What I will do is always conscious of people's time, and I do appreciate everyone coming out. If you have a question that wasn't answered and you want to stick around, Mr. Annandale, Ms. Callender, and I will be available to try and answer any questions so that we can help answer that. But for everyone else, as I said, this presentation, so don't worry if you've missed a question, everything will be recorded and posted on our website. I want to thank you for giving up your Thursday night tonight to join us, and you're in time to watch that Canucks game in a few minutes. And we really look forward to working with your child next year. And on behalf of my staff, I want to say welcome to Delta Secondary, and I look forward to working with you and your child come September. So have a great night. To exit the Zoom session, there's a little red button called, I believe it's leave on your screen or end. You may hit that button, you'll disappear from our Zoom call, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, everybody, and take care.